No tomorrow with a great start to HGC Phase 2. Now we see who gets the victory in our next series between Even and Death and Team Freedom. It's interesting because Team Freedom is kind of in the position that Even and Death was now. Where they were the newcomers, right? They had some new members to the top 8 who had never been in the top 8 for North America at all. That was Nasmus, Dansky, and now we see the same thing, a couple of members from Even and Death, the same, Lutano, Homicidal too. It's their first time in the top 8 North American scene. Yeah, it's going to be how much has Team Freedom learned in 6 months of standing at the top of North America, at least top 8 of North America, and how does that impact themselves over Even and Death here, who again, they are competing and they are now going to be at Phase 2 of HGC, but it was due to the breakup of B-Step. There are a few members that you should recognize potentially with names if you've been around and watched the North American top 8 before. Things like Battery, Frozen X, members, Haunwen, members who had been on Gust or Bust now too. So getting more of those old Gust or Bust members back into the top 8 North American scene. It's going to be fun to see how Even and Death can adapt here and how well they can do, or else they will face being in the Crucible on the other side. Yeah, it really is for Even and Death, whether it be a pro or a con, it all comes down to their mentality, right? Of just nobody expects much of them, and that can be something they absolutely abuse and be one of the most pleasant surprises of Phase 2, or in fact they can use that as a negative thing and it get to them. The lack of faith is because, especially when you get this breakthrough into top 8, people feel like they should be a better team than they were before, though there is no reason to. Relative to the rest of the world, you still remain top 8 of North America. It doesn't make you a better team. It very much has got to be, earned and thought out here for the team. So it's all about their point of view and the drive that they have from within. Well, they'll be taking on Team Freedom. Let's meet the team new to NAHGC, Even and Death.
We do have a lot of discipline as far as practicing goes. We have a lot of energy, and I think our team morale is really good. Like, everybody's happy, everybody's chilling. There's no drama in there. It's mostly a really good synergy inside of the team. That's what makes our play goes correctly. That's what keeps everything connected in a way.
I think a lot of issues from the old Team Freedom kind of stem from Insomnia. I don't know how their team dynamic works, but we always kind of isolated him out. We'd find ourselves calling him as a target a lot, and now he's gone, and we're not sure how Kier's going to fit into that, but we've always thought that Kier was a really strong player back when he was on UTA, so I think Freedom's actually going to do really well this phase if they've fixed any kind of synergy problem. If this change was as smart as they think it is, they're definitely going to be big contenders, and I'll be really interested to see how we play against them. Being in League, man, it means I'm a pro gamer. I make a living off of, competing, doing something I love. It's a dream come true. That's what it means to me, and it's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of fun, and I get to play with friends, and I get to compete, and that's just everything I ever wanted from this, and now I have it.
It's a big step for Even and Death to now be in HGC, but can they hold on to their positioning? That's what we find out over the next few weeks, the next 10 weeks of HGC League play. Battery talked about Kier joining the roster, replacing Insomnia. What do you think of this change for Team Freedom? I think it's a nice one for them. Insomnia didn't perform poorly for the squad, I would say. I didn't look at the Freedom roster as like major outlier of like, this is the problem. But I do think that Kier has shown time and time again to have drive within himself to be able to improve as a player, to want to compete. So I think anytime you can get a guy as hungry as Kier at least comes off when it comes to the stats and what he's managed to make happen throughout all of last year, it's always going to be a big and good thing for the roster. It's just any mix-up could be a big problem, but again, they're new players. They're younger players. That was Freedom, one of the youngest rosters, so that mix-up for them should be one of the smoothest transitions out of any team we could see Kier of join. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how Kier does for the squad. He will be playing melee. He was playing ranged before, but Kier was so good that when we looked at roster changes, we really were like postulating that he could have joined any team. So I'm so pumped to see how he does for Team Freedom. Let's get into the match. We're ready to check out the Battleground pool, see where game number 1 takes place, and that will be on Towers of Doom. Towers of Doom. It was a huge Part 1, Phase 1 map for North America. It fell out a little bit in Part number 2.
But I like it to bring it back here for Team Freedom. I'm excited to see how it plays out. It's often referred to, at least from some of the European players I got to talk to, they view this as the better team will always win this map, is kind of how they take it. It's just in the long run, you can't have anything major crazy. There is no major cheese to look out for. Are you smirking at our green?
The Towers of Doom is my favorite of all of them. I love the green-orange, like Halloween.
It is pretty dope. It's still a little weird at first, though, to get used to, especially with the light reflecting up in the monitors.
Yeah, when I'm looking at you and it's just behind you and
yeah.
it slowly shifts.
It is pretty dope, though. You know, it's but overall, I think it's a nice starting map. I think it will be only a bigger advantage with that same theory, according to the European players, for Team Freedom.
Yeah, especially since this was already a favorite of Team Freedom. So I'm already happy to see that Team Freedom hasn't made any huge sweeping changes. That may come back to bite me when we get into the draft. That may be different, especially since they do have that one new player. But Team Freedom for us has always felt to be such a stable team, right? They hold on to their meta perhaps too long, but in part 2, we're willing to say, okay, it's time for us to make some changes with the meta, for us to adapt. But they have always been willing to hold on to their constants.
Yeah, it's one of those things, again, that can be the make or break for a squad. Hopefully for me, I do want to see major changes, but not like ridiculous ones, right? Just to see we are now, especially when it comes to draft, I want to see major draft changes for them, but everything else can stick the same. The play style, the leadership, the communication, I think would be awesome. Just Freedom to be a little bit less comfortable with their approach to a draft.
Yeah, Team Freedom was the team that ran Nazebo all the way to the end of playoffs, or really the end of them in playoffs, falling to Roll 20. Even in death, banning an Abathur. And the Dahaka follow-up is quite likely.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's a bit backwards, though. And even in Death's mind, most of the time we expect the team to ban the Dahaka and then the next team to respond ban the Abathur. But by opening ban the Abathur, it's not nearly as necessary to rid of the Dahaka. Essentially, that Abathur's better than the Dahaka, so by banning the Dahaka, you make the Abathur really incentivized. But by banning the Abathur, you essentially don't ensure the Dahaka removal. But Freedom, they stick to the rules, stick to the game plan here. And they rid of it. Uther first pick. The question is it a new Genji or is it a new Malfurion? Gilly, you decide.
Knowing Collusion, I think a noob Malfurion. Oh.
I raise you in a noob Genji. No,
All right.
I agreed with you. I thought we would actually see the Malfurion in that transition. So not letting that out of their hands. Even in death, where do they want to move? I'm going to be honest, Gilly. Can't help you too much here. Even in death, I don't have the nitpicking. I don't have the details. I don't have the individual. We got a bit of data.
Yeah, we've got a little bit. We got some hero pools.
But it is not nearly as depthful as you can expect from all the other teams. We get to learn right alongside you guys. The only thing I think of when I think of the members of Even in Death right out the gates, the only thing, Battery on Chen. And I don't know why.
Even over Tyrael.
Because back when he was the most successful he was when I was still competing, it was a Chen meta. And he just was running Chen all day, every day. Ooh! But even in death, they transitioned to the Holy Trinity on the 2-3.
All right.
The alternative version, taking the Uther, but I like it a lot more. I will say I don't want to see the Aegis. I want to see the Aegis, not the Resurrect, but I love that we at least see this, you know, you got the game plan. At least we can do the math here.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We're seeing it. Even in death, we see you. We see you. Team Freedom now. What do they take away from this? Potentially a warrior, I think, is a likely option. They're considering Arthas.
Why the Arthas? Only because the Illidan? I can't, like, the Holy Trinity does work really well with an Arthas. That could be part of the reason, mainly because they work well in long sustaining fights, and you can't move very well into an Arthas. You also can't move very far away, and Arthas likes long sustaining fights on top of it. So it just complements what the Trifecta already brings, and on top of it, not the variant so much though. That one didn't expect that ban coming out from them, showing hyper aggression. Totally being intended with another follow-up for Genji. Somebody else that they're afraid to get essentially taunted to death.
Yeah.
I would say Colossus Smash, but you know, only China was the only region confident enough to, and that was actually SEA, I believe, with the Colossus Smash. They bought out Twin Blades. You know, if you only watch North America and you've only experienced Taunt Varian, there's a whole world of Varian.
There's actually two other heroics you can pick. Believe it or not.
Oh man, I loved it. I loved some of the Varian play we got to see at MSB. It was too good. For this ban, even in death.
Should be Malfurion, right?
Yeah, the Malf, or again, who is that one person who's looking to dive in, isolate, hyper carry in that you're afraid of? Is it like a Tassadar Vala or is it Tass Tracer like dive that's something you're afraid of? A Zeratul is going to be their volunteer. I just want to say, I am amazed at how much of even in Death's thought process I feel like I can understand in the very first game. For a new team like this, think about Team Freedom, I had no, it was just like they're going to pick what they want to play, and it's not going to make too much sense according to international study of meta, but even in Death is like, I've never seen that quick for a team. Not where they placed, the fact that they would legitimately have been last team to qualify for HGC. Wow.
Over Malfurion. Collusion. What's up? I'm excited for D.Va though.
Yeah, wow. You're right. They
I know.
opt away from the Malfurion. You go into the Rhaegar and you banned out.
It's got to just
the
be
Varian.
for the bigger heal on Genji.
Let's say that Zeratul was not the target that they were afraid of. The reasoning for the Varian ban. D.Va's not it. Rhaegar isn't it. You know what I mean? It just, I feel like that last pick could be even wonkier. I'm not saying it is, but again, when the math doesn't add up, it usually is for a reason.
It can definitely still be another melee too, because we know that Freedom Dansky, he used to be the Artanis player, and Insomnia would play another melee. So they have the capacity to play a multiple melee comp. They're not defined by just having two like D.Va and a new Brack.
The front line for even in death, what is it going to be? Arthas something? Illidan? Not what I expected. Diablo, also what not I expected. What not I expected. Not what I expected. Sentences. What? Gilly,
Dread.
I need some help.
Okay.
Illidan Diablo. They gave me the old bait and switch here. Classic Holy Trinity into Illidan and Diablo. Not synergistic with the composition, not synergistic within themselves. I can make a bit of an argument as to why you would go with the Illidan, but the Diablo on top of it, that's where it goes, like, what is the thought process actually?
I see the double threat of Illidan Vala. You don't have to worry too much about Vala when you've got Illidan. You've got the double support too to enable for forever.
But then you say Tyrael 100% there, right? Like something else. The lack of solo for warriors that are available, like the other backup, according to what we've seen, would be Stitches, but not Diablo. So even in death, with their own flavor here, picked up the Dibble's last pick for Freedom. Please give me an answer.
Okay.
Wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Double reset comp with the D.Va.
Into Holy Trinity with an Illidan Dibbles. That's a unique one right there. Just the problem that convey that brings in the way these team fights are going to happen. I like Freedom just because the last two rotations were not only breaking, again, the norm of what we would expect with those drafts, but also just based on the fact that it was very apparent that a lot of resources on the back half of the draft were committed for even in death by the Zeratul, then taking the Illidan. It just two niche bands that were specifically targeted towards fear of a certain type of comp, and then it wasn't sold when it was kind of rounded out at the end. I do think that gives a pretty big hand over to Team Freedom. They can stall. They have good delay with D.Va. They've got relatively good team fighting, and according to what we know and just how they got here, I'm going to assume Team Freedom is definitely the better team.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways to be able to stall out. What do you think even in death has to do in this game to be able to win with this comp?
Holy Trinity out. Just absolutely near flawless play between the three. The three together, I truly believe in a perfect world, can win any game. but it's so specific. They can't mess up cooldowns. They cannot mess it up at all. And I think the biggest thing that a lot of the times we see with that strategy that people really mess up, and especially since Tassadar is no longer that cycle, it's an Uther. We're putting people who don't play actual secondary supports. You just played, again, the filler Tassadar role, which we talked about the skill level that needs. It's not as serious as some of the other heroes in the game. So I think it put a lot of pressure by committing to the Uther variation, and I also don't know if Even in Death even has the coordination to run the Holy Trinity from the beginning.
Well, let's see how our brand new team Even in Death does in their first HGC game. We're heading into Towers of Doom.
We are on Towers of Doom. Team Freedom here is going to be in the blue. Collusion will be playing the Rhaegar. Zugrug is going to be onto the Anubarak. Cure on Genji. Dansky will be on the Li Ming. And last year we have Nasmus playing the Diva.
Over in the red, the members of Even in Death. Battery playing Diablo. Lutano playing that very important Vala for this composition. Support player Hao Nguyen playing Uther. Frozen X flexing it out, playing Ariel. And finally, Homicidal playing Illidan.
Team Freedom here has a bit of, an interesting draft just based on the fact that we rarely got to see Diva. We have seen bits and pieces of her competitively played. She definitely had a spot on maps like Infernal Shrine. She made quite a bit of an argument for herself, but not so much on towers. You could argue for the sustained delay and just annoyance that you can provide around the shrines themselves. It will be pretty high impact, but already Even in Death has put a lot of pressure onto her. The fact she's lost mech mode this early.
Yeah. The play from Battery was really good to stun her out, do a lot of damage, and give time for the team to burn down the mech. But Diva will be hoping to get the mech back, be ready for a self-destruct by the time that we get to the first altar phase, which is a little bit out still.
It is going to be a smidge out here. Laning phase for Team Freedom, as we can already see, is not necessarily dominant unless they look for heavy ganks. That is just byproduct of the meta, really. Anytime you see teams who rotate a Anubarak Genji, they always have to focus on that. It's just too many resources too high into a draft. The meta heroes are way too good at one dynamic and way too weak in others, so Even in Death is doing a good job applying pressure with the Holy Trinity through bottom. I like this. This is what I expected to see more of out of Superstars, for instance, when cross-comparing the last series.
Yeah, and Homicidal's been split soaking out, trying to soak both of the waves, but Diva went mid and pushed that wave down, so that is going to be just lost. But Team Freedom and Even in Death are very close in experience so far as we get ready for the first altar phase.
With 3 up, we'll look at the rotations here. It looks like Freedom, they should have the upper hand. They should struggle on bottom, but they should thrive on the top half of the map. Diva and Genji are both there for the rotations, whereas only Illidan are up on top. Zugrug has to go ahead and bro charge right on out here. Hao Nguyen should be able to start the bottom channel. So Freedom forfeits bottom. They take top left. It's all about top right. That's the only one we have remaining. Collusion starts it. He should get it here. So Even in Death falls behind a bit, but they're trying to get the pressure on bottom. That's the thought process.
Yeah, those sappers did run in, and they cleared out the sappers of Team Freedom, so they're just trying to keep up in being able to start sieging down the tower, even move on, and keep a lot of members of Team Freedom here in the bottom too. They've forced once again everybody to come in, actually, as you see Nasmus here. Only Genji trying to split soak against the wave. There's the boosters.
Thrusters out, Illidan and Genji just with the side soak all game. It's just, Even in Death is doing a very good job applying pressure, again, with their early game, but they aren't opening anything past that front wall. I like the fact that they're cycling out to a different lane, trying to get that. Follow-up stun and damage is there. At least making Cure respect the members of Even in Death on positioning.
Combo of Defense Matrix on Vala and Deflect ensures that there is no first blood claimed by Even in Death in this series.
Oh man, I thought that was a scary rotation there, leaning a bit out too far. Oh, Freedom needs to find a way to do something with the laning phase. They're kind of just letting Even in Death do whatever they want. They're going through top, and they focus on gank onto him is going to be the best odds. He should be able to make it out as long as he's got a W. Nope, Cure seals the deal before Nasmus even gets the mech off.
That was scary. I was like, hands over my eyes, are they gonna get this? But they do. First blood, claimed by Team Freedom, using self-destruct to do so.
Invade here for the members of Even in Death. It's a couple seconds too late, and Zugrug still has the burrow out if he needs. You see Genji getting that flank. The Holy Trinity AoE supporting Zugrug. Falling low, Lasado gets it. Lutana walks away with a pick, stun onto Cure. He's got a dash once more. So 22 seconds where Even in Death should be able to at least get the same talent here and contest over this next altar.
That death was necessary for Even Death because they're falling behind in experience with how much focus they've put on the bottom lane. Yes, they've been able to get sappers. Yes, they've been able to start out pressure, but they haven't even been able to get a bell tower yet. And Team Freedom, just in making sure that their rotations are solid and they're continuing their soak, has started to get ahead. A second altar phase, trade between the two teams as the supports grab them.
They're looking to try and force this. Battery, maybe cut out. That's it. There's just going to be the trade on the shots, the patient game. Even in Death, they just want to open up the map with the early game pressure that those 4 members can provide together. When they hit 10, they have the side soaking option of having the hunt there for Homicidal. It's a, you know, an interesting way that it's played out here. I'm just surprised that Freedom is playing it so slow as well. They aren't looking for counter ganks. They're just kind of like, well, they aren't pushing too hard, so we don't have to pay attention to them, but Freedom's not looking for a response or an answer elsewhere.
Yes, but Dread, are you really surprised that it's Team Freedom who's playing patiently and just making sure that they are safe above all else?
I mean,
because that's exactly the Team Freedom that we knew from Phase 1.
It's a good point. It falls under the same parameters, or same like department that I was talking about, you know, of all of North America. What I'd like to see different is just be more aggressive with the laning phases, or whenever the objective's not up, especially in a meta like this. Genji literally begs you to be offensive all the time, every time, especially with a double reset like a Li Ming. They're going to try it here with this invade.
There we go. Invading in, self-destruct used. Nasmus can go back into mech when he so chooses. Team Freedom get aggressive. It's calculated aggression. They know that they have the self-destruct to be able to zone away, but they steal some sappers away for their effort.
Like this, they can just go so hard on this bottom front wall. They're closing in on 10, the double sappers moving in. That is a moment where your opponent, no world, we're in a Nubrak Bros with 4 people behind, they go, we should defend this. You're like, nope, here's our front wall, we're taking it. 10 hits immediately after. You're like, what's up? What do you gotta say? What are you gonna do? Because we're gonna now take the altars. It's happening. It's just 30 seconds later, again, than I was hoping to see this.
Yeah, the advantage of that is obviously that if you keep the pressure on there, then you can just cycle somebody through and get the altars, but they still got the altars. That was solely because they had heroics over their opponents.
Yeah, exactly. It's not taking, it's hoping it's given.
Big shot over Bunny Hop for D.Va, making sure that she has that pilot damage, but importantly also has mech up as often as possible.
Homicidal was able to make it out there. The hunt is the choice for him. Reign of Vengeance was picked up rather than straight for Valla, something we have seen when paired with specifically Johanna's, but outside of that, even with a heavy momentum-based team fight, it's been uncommon to see that talent picked up. See how it works out for him. I'm torn on it. I really like it with Johanna's, but outside of the prep with the Condemn to bring them in, reel them in, I am torn. You know, does that lose you too much on the battery that you need to provide for Frozen X to really be a problem of the Holy Trinity, or is it just enough to be able to get away with it?
I guess in this instance, why do you think it was chosen just for self-preservation? For combo off of Apocalypse 2, potentially?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I mean, not a bad talent. Obviously, we've known Reign of Vengeance has been situational for a long while. Hold on a minute. We'll get to that. The invade, the APOC, the flip over. Anoob's in a bad spot, but Defense Matrix getting the peel cure. You see, getting the damage out, and Central does not make it here. Freedom is already down 2 members here, even in death. Taking it to the North American team, and this is now an awesome turn of events.
That was just about the perfect place for an Apocalypse based on where everyone is crowded into the corner of the Sappers spawn. And Even in Death get 2 picks right at the start of this next altar spawn phase. We're looking for a kill on Nasmus. Nasmus has self-destruct, but really does not want to use it there. They want to try to make sure that they can keep it for the next fight, so it's on their terms of using it. Now they're going to throw it out, booster it out.
Gilly, I just want you to know you were 100% correct, but he was just like, what if I use it now? You are 100% correct. They did not want to use it there, but he ends up throwing it out thinking it was the only time they had to buy any room on this altar, and they did manage to stall it out. Illidan is now going to have to stop taking the camp. He's going to have to rotate down, but Nasmus is already taken so much damage here. This is going to be Illidan just cleaning shop.
Now they have to use Ancestral Healing to keep D.Va alive now. She almost has her mech back. Now it's there with a nice big shot thrown in. Still fighting over the altar are the two teams. D.Va's going to get taken out, does not self-destruct.
No self-destruct. Big shot has allowed her to find herself in a spot halfway through on the self-destruct. Still halfway there. Delay is going to be there. Zugrug falls very low, but he doesn't end up dying. Dash back. Homicidal is going to wear the beetle. Man, that was very scary. If you saw Homicidal dash away from that beetle, I thought he broke Fog of War. If you break Fog of War, that turns around, stops Frozen X, but they didn't. Crisis averted. 8 shots down is going to be even in death, but they're fighting. Gilly, they are flat out not giving this to Freedom. I love it.
I just feel like the mech, yes, stopped Even Death maybe from pushing in and getting the bell tower. Oh, hold on to that. We've got more fighting. It's brawling everywhere. Speaking of the mech, gotta use the self-destruct. Here goes Apoc. Nasmus is in a terrible spot for them, but gets back into the mech.
Pre-cleanse, Collusion's an actual god. He just saved his members of his team. Now they get the, they get the mech. They get the pick onto Diablo.
Oh my goodness, Cure.
Oh, that was, wow. That was so awesome. From the pre-cleanse into the D.Va managing to somehow go into mech mode, and then just Freedom getting upset. Cure going like, all right, you had your fun. We're done with this. We're ready to end this team fight.
Let me carry with a nice Dragon Blade, and it was very nice. Team Freedom now can start getting a lead in the bell tower game, thanks to stealing the sappers. Illidan's been up at the top. He's been trying to make something happen in the top lane. Pretty consistently getting those sappers, but so far it's Team Freedom who's now feeling comfortable with the lead they've been able to secure.
Yeah, Even in Death has not managed to be as impactful enough on the laning part of the advantage of this composition to really take out Freedom. And we saw, you know, Freedom, as long as they are comfortable with the fight, they seem to be able to turn it around. As long as they can acknowledge that it's going to be one and it's a full 5 versus 5, they are able to win it. But we'll find out here. We have three more, altars up in 7 seconds. We have Apoc following only 2 seconds after. So this is almost inevitably going to be a fight pre-16. It's Even in Death has to be the one forcing it, but it's going to be here over bottom.
Yeah, they want to get a fight while there's no 16 for Freedom, but it doesn't mean they have to sacrifice the bottom bell tower, which is giving an extra shot. Top altars traded. Illidan, Genji heading down to the bottom to fight this out over the mid shrine.
Battery's a bit out of position. The mecha's going to be thrown down. The Apoc is used as a force of panic. They're not going to hit anybody, giving immediate reset now onto Cure as you see him just using that Dragon's Blade onto the backline. Ancestral goes down, but it's a 1-for-1. Homicidal on the backside has drawn so much aggro. Is he going to be able to turn this?
Nobody's dealing with him so far.
Holy.
Zugrug and Cure gets low. Homicidal and taking out Li Ming takes out the biggest issue.
The hunt.
Li Ming resets, Hunt's back in. D.Va is out of there.
Homicidal showing how he got his name. He gets a kill, and Even in Death once again is surprising us here on Towers of Doom. They're still behind when it comes to shots, but as long as they cycle the map out, they get the pressure over the next 30 seconds out properly, they're going to find themselves at least on even footing in experience and in control onto the bell towers.
That bottom bell tower for Freedom was low. I was wondering if Even in Death would just try to push that down first, then go back and get their own, but instead they're getting sappers. They can clear out their own now, immediately send Illidan top again to continue split soaking, get the team 16.
So this is one bell tower converted back. 16 will not be picked up off of it, but close. Well, call me wrong on the math. You know, just flat wrong. Gosh, it was 1 inch away. I'm almost always, when I say it's, oh man. Almost always, I was like, there's no way this is a. I've never been that confident in proving wrong. But 16 is here.
Ooh,
now they're going to convert the bell tower.
There's a change from
Gilly.
Dread.
I need you to picnic.
Wait. Oh, this is a delightful wine and cheese. Thank you very much. You did say picnic.
Yeah.
Why am I picnicking?
Wine and cheeses. I wanted to essentially go over. Remember when you were talking about you thought we would see the bell towers converted, but then Even in Death does not convert the bell towers. Like, they were essentially choose two options: when everybody's dead, when everybody's not dead. When one are you going to choose? Even in Death took the only one that in fact was a risk. It was just merely, again, shot calling logic that you and I have discovered here in North America.
Yeah, I did believe that they would go and do the sweep of getting the bell towers and then maybe the sappers, but Even in Death are new here, maybe feeling a little bit nervous too. Here we are at the boss fight, Nasmus.
There's 3 members still cycling for freedom.
He does have self-destruct.
He gives the boop.
Now he does.
Self-destruct's there. It's going to be on point as well. The 3-man knockup. Genji with the damage, but there is the cocoon. The ice block is not going to be there. Ancestral. Oh, Cure gets it.
And they're going for more. There is the Crystal Aegis. Uther's down. Diablo falls. Even in Death, losing 2. Going back in, Homicidal.
How did Cure survive? Nasmus, everybody. Genji actually drops as well. Lutano turned the fight around for a moment there. The shots converted. Freedom moves up. 10 left on Even in Death's core. But seriously, that fight should have been so lopsided in the side of Freedom, and then Even in Death did manage to rebuttal for a moment. That was, I loved it. I've never seen a fight that, I haven't seen a fight that chaotic in a long while.
Everything's happening. People are pressing their buttons. It was awesome.
The stall out mostly coming out from D.Va, that was huge. To throw out the defense matrix, trying to remove any damage done. Wow. But Freedom, they've won the battle. Haven't won the war yet.
18-10.
18-18 in experience. Even in Death, middle bell tower is kind of on reserve, if you will.
Even top, too.
That's not good.
No. One power play from Freedom, and they're going to get a lot done.
Yeah, it's just going to be 3 members. If more than 3 members on Even in Death die, we'll get a lot done. When we say reserve, when we're talking about top and mid, it's essentially on this map because you can convert the bell towers and you can't actually strike the core. You can keep them at low HP, wait till you win anything, look at them, knock them down, immediately start converting shots into your opponent's core. Nice attempt. The flank was there. We see the initiation from D.Va is not, you know, it left something to be desired, but we've known that from her. Her thrusters aren't necessarily the great initiation. Cocoon.
Self-destruct 2. Hanwen is taken out of the cocoon. Apocalypse in the back. Divine Shield keeps Diablo safe. He comes in for a stun on Zugrug. All the team burning him down. Ancestral Healing keeps Zugrug alive so far. There once again are the boosters from Nasmus.
The flip. Nasmus gets stunned out. He's going to go back to human mode. Big shot is going to be thrown out, hitting 2. Mecha sitting now at 50%. Genji with the reflect. Cure barely being able to skirmish his way out of this one. We've got altars back up. If both are captured by Team Freedom, they can win this game.
Might have noticed, but Nasmus has Torpedo Dash at 16, so he has that extra amount of escape in pilot mode. Cure and Homicidal trading blows. Dansky joins for the 2v1.
The slash actually missed there, so that's a reset. Won't be available for a long while, and nobody got onto Battery soon enough to take the mecha damage. They go for the initiation. Wow, look at Cure falling so low, but he doesn't end up going down. No, Lutano actually goes down. Vala is dead, no Battery available, and Even in Death should just crumble now, not having that hero. Ariel is going to be dropped, not even trying to use the Aegis to keep themselves up.
20 was picked up at the end of that fight. And now Team Freedom will take the altar, take a bell tower. Are you wondering why the order? What the...
No, I'm just sitting here. I'm just looking at how that team fight happened, just in general. These fights are so very different than what you would expect. Like when looking at specifically Homicidal and his play onto, and just even in Death, Divine Shields onto the Diablo. I'm not saying it's wrong, because I think if you approach these fights straight up traditionally, you would lose this game. But there's been a lot of focus on the Battery onto the front line, keeping him up. Ariel and Illidan. Illidan is not diving and drawing aggro and then resorting back to the team AoE healing and then moving out. It's more of Diablo is filling that role for Even in Death. And I mean, my brain immediately says like, okay, this is going to be wrong, but I'm not sold. It's actually kind of working for them, and I wonder if they're onto like a stroke of genius here.
Remains to be seen.
Sappers are scored in.
Knockback of self-destruct.
1 Sapper made it. 3 behind it.
Homicidal's trying to take out the bell tower in top because
Dansky.
right now there are so many bell towers.
It's like a mini game.
Archon mode!
He's gaining so many points. He lost the multiplier because he dropped for a moment and had to move, but he had it going for a little bit there. You know, like Guitario, when you get the 8 times, he was just racking the points. I'm on the high score, Mom. Check me out.
Bzzz.
Oh, man.
Even in Death's in a rough spot, though.
They are.
That is ridiculous! Are you kidding me right now?
And the hunt was used, the pre-cleanse is there, and he goes back and he's just like, I still have lasers.
It's just like taking out.
Love it. It cost a bolt on the side of Battery, too. So Battery, you know, now down the bolt. He's not going to have that. Homicidal, the pressure is there. 12 seconds, and what could be the last ultimate.
Kira gets caught. All of Even in Death is there. Ancestral healing. Kira's still
APOC?
trying to take people down.
APOC is there. Divine Shield's going to be used. How to Win goes down, but he does have Redemption. He heals everybody up. Dragon Blade. It's being fancy here, but if Cure goes down, that's a lost fight. He does end up dropping. Uther comes back to life. The Mecha is there. The Hunt gets the interrupt on Collusion. Homicidal goes in. Battery flips him. He'll be back with the Devil's Due, but 60 seconds. It is a bloodbath, Gilly.
And Dansky is like, you guys got this from here. You can protect me. Okay, I'm going to infinite laser your face.
They move
They
up.
don't have it yet. though.
Mutano, he moves in. How to Win starts the channel.
Torpedo dash.
Even in Death, their name is only fitting them at this point. When you count them out, 1 HP, you think they're done, but they, in fact, are not. They are going to battle it out here. 4 shots left. This is about, they can fight under this. This is not an actual...
Ooh, Bola was deleted. Down goes Diablo. Dansky hoping for more resets, but low on mana.
That bell tower had 4 shots. Only 4 shots was an actual advantage. Freedom looked at that and they're like, we have the upper hand. Let's start this fight. And Even in Death just got bodied by the execution there at the very end. Unlimited Archon mode is now available here.
All right, we've got an Illidan, an Uther, and an Ariel
So many points to be gained.
to save the world.
Pre-cleanse, man. The pre-cleanse, just to zone them off. The Aegis, and that is it. GG. Team Freedom is going to take game number 1 over Even in Death.
What a crazy set of circumstances we had in that game.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That was just your wording. A crazy set of circumstances. You're right. It was a crazy set of circumstances. There were very weird approach to the team fight from both teams, mainly from Even in Death. But again, I don't necessarily view it as wrong because, again, I was like, I've never really seen Diablo and Illidan in this variation. Like, am I missing something? And it did way better than I thought it would. So much so that I'm like, maybe they are onto something that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's Divine Shield, Diablo. You've got the Hunt in with Diablo there next to them. Apocalypses, once they were... The best one was by far the Apocalypse around the Sappers, too, being able to control the positioning there. Because it is very dependent on whether you're around chokes so that when your opponents are trying to move out of it, they have no choice but to get hit by the stun.
Yeah, it is. It is how when you APOC is a very difficult thing to figure out, and it changes how you approach specific team fights. And his initiation is not reliant on Diablo; it's reliant on Diablo and his opponents, which is maybe half the reason why Diablo, in theory, is not always at the top of the meta. Because if he was, that means he's strong enough that it only matters on him, which means APOC's pretty crazy. But just part of the reason we see the spike there. Battery put up a better argument than I expected out of them. The synergy of Even in Death was better than what I expected out of them. The Holy Trinity, if we call it that, but it's not mindless. It's actually still pretty hard to run.
Their synergy should be very good. They have played through open division since the beginning of part 1.
Yeah.
So their synergy should be better even than Team Freedom's, having Cure as a new factor for them. So I was pleasantly surprised by the synergy, definitely, from that team.
But Freedom the entire time felt like they had control of that game, other than a couple of hiccups, you know, here and there. Maybe being willing to risk positioning in a couple of circumstances between Cure and Nasmus specifically were the two that stood out for me. They were taking bad trades in some choices, but it felt like they were more of like, can we get away with this? You know, like kind of testing it. And then when it really mattered, they just pressed R, immediately blew somebody up, and was like, okay, now we can win the game.
It's time for our next